This episode of the Beer Bound Podcast is brought to you by Rolling Hops Beer Tours.
Hey everybody, Garrett here from Rolling Hops, as always joined with my partner,
Andy.
We're here to tell you guys about our virtual craft beer tour offering. With what's going on in the world, unfortunately, we haven't been able to run our historical craft walking beer tour, so we've pivoted to taking the virtual experience of craft beer directly to you guys. Wonderful for team building events, corporate events, even just a night out or in, for that matter, with your friends and family. And we're doing this online.
Have any questions about the beer tours or want us to tailor make an event for you? Just shoot us an email or send us a message on any form of social media. Rolling Hops, you can find us everywhere.
RollingHopsBeerTours.com is where you can get a hold of us, and we'll see you guys soon.
Cheers. Welcome, everyone, to an episode of the Beer Bound Podcast. We're excited to be joined by Sales Manager Kyle Weston and Head Brewer and Co-founder Chris Freeman from the Collingwood Brewery. Big surprise, you can find the Collingwood Brewery in Collingwood, Ontario. For those city folks or for anyone who doesn't know Ontario geography, Collingwood is located on the beautiful Georgian Bay, approximately 2 hours north of Toronto. We're excited to learn about the brewery's history and what these two gentlemen have been up to. So without further ado, we welcome Chris and Kyle to the Beer Bound Podcast. Hello, gentlemen.
Good evening. Hey, thanks for having us. Good evening.
Welcome.
Wonderful. So these gentlemen are absolutely generous to the nth degree and have sent us not only a very fashionable hat, which we're sporting quite comfortably, but also a wide selection of Collingwood Brewery beer. So I thought I've cracked open the citrus seltzer. So maybe Kyle, can you tell us a little bit about this one?
Yeah. So the seltzers in general are it's a newer trend that breweries are dipping their toe into, and it's funny because whenever we were trying to figure out should we get into it, should we not, we're obviously trying the first movers, and there's some that we really liked, some we didn't like, so we're trying to figure out how is this going to work. So we put something out that we are going to be number one, behind and proud of, and number two, something that's not going to sit in the fridge. Obviously it's going to move for us. So obviously the first rule of thumb would be create something that is very approachable, which would be the citrus, and then be a little selfish and make some favorites. So we have a few flavors that it's spitballed into something that has actually moved good volume for us, and it's a great product. And whenever we're having a meeting of the minds throughout the day, we'll make sure that the quality control on it is dialed in, and that it's still at the acidity that we want it to be. But no, so
it's absolutely fantastic. Sorry
good.
To interrupt, but I feel like I'm on the beach right now.
Yeah, exactly. So for us, it is an extension of our freestyle series, which we have our core brands. Then we have our freestyle LCBO seasonals. Then we just have our exclusive freestyles that are only available at the brewery. So this is part of the exclusive brewery only freestyle beers that you can buy either walking into our brewery in Collingwood, Ontario, or through the online store, which ships across the province, country, wherever. The shipping, you buy a case and it's free shipping. It's a fantastic service that's offered to our customers. But the freestyle series throughout all of this has been. It's been a fantastic endeavor to continue to keep going because you keep trying these new things, and the seltzer was, something that was trending. So for us, obviously, it'd be better to get Chris's input on how he actually got it to where it is, because it's such a good product. It exceeded my expectations. Like I said, we tried other seltzers on the market, and it was like super hit or miss. So we're like, how do we make it a hit? What's the formula here, right? So Chris can jump in and lay a little bit more out of that for you on his formula, and then obviously coming forward with other seltzers, what we have on the pipeline.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, the key I've found with the seltzer is just is really just getting the acidity right, which, you know, kind of once you finish the sip, your mouth dries out a bit, waters, and it kind of gets you ready for the next one. So just like a solid, I'm a wine guy as well, so just like a solid white wine, right? So you really need that that's kind of across the board, depending, especially in a citrus style, right? That this thing is mostly grapefruit and lime. So it's really suitable for this for sure. So
it's so delicious. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's a little dangerous. It's kind of it drinks like those.
Yeah.
I drink a lot of those bubbly waters, and it just kind of drinks like one of those. You got to be really careful.
Yeah,
5% goes down smooth.
Yeah, no, we got a couple other flavors. Well, I did the citrus for like what I thought would be good for the general public, and then I did one for me, which is an orange blossom hibiscus, so it's pink.
I noticed that.
So it's pretty neat. And then we have a fuzzy peach coming out soon. So I just love that we started off a beer podcast talking about seltzers.
Yeah, I know. That's right. Yeah.
Some of the more controversial topics.
Yeah.
But it's, we gotta make the stuff we love and do the stuff that sells. It's just all part of balancing all the right things to make your business go. So I mean,
sure.
I personally do like this. Like I'm a 45-year-old man, so I can't drink beer all the time, right?
Yeah.
So.
It's kind of like craft beer. It's like the adopted little brother of craft beer.
Yeah.
Seltzer.
Yeah. No, I think we bet it. Everyone gets a bit of grief for this kind of stuff, but I think everyone secretly likes it. So.
Amazing.
I'm a big fan of options. Like if a place, regardless of where you are and obviously what industry you're in, but if you have options, right, you're gonna cater to more than one taste, which as a business decision, I think is fantastic. And
I've got loads of friends who want to I love to drink your beer, but I just don't like beer. It doesn't make me feel good. So now I have, something I can offer them, and, they love it. It's great. So I can kind of please everybody now. So.
Right.
And to that point, that was the essence of it, right? We're not taking away from any of our business right now. It's just, it's adding to it. We have, patrons coming in through the front door, whom there might be a group of 6 and 4 or 5 of them come to drink the beer. One or two are looking for alternatives, and if we can provide the alternative through our tanks instead of through bringing in like a guest can, not that I'm against supporting others, but I'd rather be able to support ourselves. So if we can support it through our own bloodline here, I would much rather do that, and this has just provided that option. I mean, it drinks so light, and it's like Chris said, it's quite dangerous. That it's that one that, it's an offering that, this is made by the Collingwood Brewery, but it's not, don't be nervous. You're not drinking a West Coast IPA. It is basically an RTD drink, right? Like a non-boozy seltzer, because it's technically a beer seltzer. So it's, delightful.
That was the next thing I was going to ask. So it's malt based then.
It's corn based.
Corn based. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, malt is on the ingredients. It has to be. I think
Gotcha.
I like salt bait some malt in there. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Right. Okay. Can we move on to
Yes.
beer number 1, which is? Can you guys tell us, maybe either Chris or Kyle? Can you tell us about the Collingwood Sunset Point?
I'll start with this one. So the Sunset Point Lager was one that I really pushed for. My kind of go-to has always been, I'm always of the lighter side. For me, it's like, I love quality, but I also love quantity. I want both. So you can't drink 7% IPAs all day. I'd rather drink 4% lagers. And it's like, why can't we do a really nice, like just dry, thirst quenching lager and make it craft? And we fought over this for a while. More time went by than needed to. But very fortuitous. Chris, I don't know. It wasn't in the middle. Like the initial product was more his side of it, but he wanted to do a somewhat Hella style lager. And this was like right at the start of COVID. Couldn't have been better timing. We have this semi-light lager coming out. I think the initial product was 4.8, Chris. And we had,
it might have been, I think I dropped the
I think it was, you just dropped now to 4.4, but I think the initial product was 4.8, and this was right at the start of like lockdowns and stuff. And we have people coming in to the tap room who we've never seen before, and they're like, you know what? Yeah, we typically go to the beer store or the LCBO. We grab our 6 or our 12 of our Coors Light, Bud Light, etc. Like, what do you guys have that are light lagers? That's anywhere in that ballpark. And we have a Rockwell Pilsner, which is, again, it's a lighter lager under 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have this, it was called Good as Hellas. It was part of our freestyle series because it was a Hellas style lager. We were nice little play on words. So we gave them 6 Pilsners and 6 of the Good as Hellas. And they came back and more often than not, they're like, if this Good as Hellas is full time, like we'll keep supporting you guys. And it's hilarious because they have in sheets, and it hasn't taken away from anything else. They're coming in and they're like typically your craft beer customers coming in and buying, 2 or 4 of something and 2 or 4 of something and 2 or 4 of something. This crowd's coming in, they're buying 24 Sunset Point lagers, and we're seeing them week after week after week after week. So it went from Good as Hellas to, well, what do we call it? We have a beach kind of local spot here in Collingwood that's called Sunset Point Beach. And we have, I'm sure you're aware that we have Side Launch Brewery here. We have Northwinds Brewery here. We have Black Bellows here. And then we have us. So we're looking and we're like, no one's taken that name. It was a no-brainer. So Sunset Point Lager was born. And at the start, Chris was like, well, I'm probably going to have to brew this like maybe twice a year. Like it's good. We're still at the front door, whatever. Anyways, we are brewing it monthly and it's fantastic. And it's now in the, it's just spitballed. It's now in the LCBO in grocery across the province, selling quite well. And yeah, it's just, Chris kept tinkering, and I'm like, stop tinkering it, but it kept getting better and better. I'm like, okay, fine, keep tinkering. It just keeps getting better and better. But a long story short, it was, I pushed a lot for this one because I just wanted a lighter option that, for me as a sales manager, you sell what you love. And I go in with my horses and I'm like, this is my horse. This is the one I lead with always. And there's a lot of good success behind it, and a lot of good followership out the front door at the brewery, which that's what we love, right? Because for us, that's our bread and butter, is getting people here to buy beer at the front door. Because more times than not, they see the tap room and like, oh, we can have a beer too. Like, we've never been here. Of course, we're gonna have a beer then. In fact, yeah, I'll have a Sunset Point lager, and then I'll buy 24 Sunset Point lagers on the way out.
Yeah, you're a salesman at heart, Kyle.
Yeah, he definitely is. He pushed for that one hard. And,
yeah, very good.
What I think, what I realized with that beer is that, when we're 7.5 years now, and we developed the freestyle series basically originally for the Toronto market because they wanted all these different beers, but they didn't really move up here. It's taken a bit longer for the craft scene to catch on locally. And so what the Sunset has done, it's basically enabled people who want to support craft beer and support local business. It enables them to do that because, they don't want to drink, IPAs or stouts or whatever. They still just want to have their simple after work go-to beer. Right. So it's really kicked the door open to a whole new crowd of people who weren't really drinking our beer before, but now they can because they like this beer and they want to support us. So, although it's kind of taken away from my Rockwell Pilsner a little bit, which is a beautiful unfiltered Czech style Pilsner. So
gold medal winning beer.
Yeah. So anyways,
nice.
So my heart's still there, but the Sunset is quite nice out of the freezer in a frosty mug. So.
Hashtag options.
Yeah, of course.
Keep going.
That's what life's about.
Beer is really about occasion, right? So for me, it's always about occasion. People always ask me what's my favorite. I'm like, just depends what I'm doing.
Yeah, of course.
See, I have the same answer, Chris. Andy typically asks people, what their favorite beer is, or then tries to get people to ask me what my favorite beer is. Yeah. And he loves doing it because he knows I can't answer the question.
Yeah.
Because it's mood dependent, right?
Yeah.
What is it? Tuesday? I don't know.
Yeah,
exactly.
What I'm feeling that day.
The one in my hand. Yeah.
I'm happy we can relate to that.
Yeah.
That makes me feel much better.
Can we get
get to something a little bit harder here. Can you guys tell us a little bit about the Collingwood Freestyle Tropical Thunder IPA? Our 6.5, is that what I read? 6.8. Hello.
6.8.
All right.
I'm holding off on finishing it. This is the one I'm drinking right now, and it's
perfect.
It's delicious, but I don't want to like kill it in 20 minutes.
Yeah, the Tropical, that was really, there's been a lot of freestyles. I think, I have a torturous history with IPAs. When I opened the brewery, I didn't want to make an IPA. Like, there were just so many, everyone was making them. Like, why do I need to make one? I was just being obstinate. So eventually did make our Whites Bay, which is our permanent IPA, but it's very kind of entry level, lower IBU, lower ABV. But then came the day where I said, you know what, I'm going to really just, pump it up and just make the big IPA. So I was just like throwing words around like skull crushing and like just whatever, silly and tropical. So we put
there's an Instagram contest. Yes.
Yeah. So we put the name out. We put the naming options, we asked the public to name the beer. So the owner of a local comic store, piped in and said Tropical Thunder. Right. I'm like, that's ridiculous, but it's awesome. So that's what it's going to be.
Like Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All those things kind of combined. Right. So it's just picks up on, it's just silly and fun. Right. So, and that's the problem with naming beers these days. Like, there's so many beers and there's so many names. It's almost impossible not to, cover ground that people have already covered. So it's hard to be, but anyway, so yeah, it was at the time when I made it, the biggest IPA that we had made. So, and the big hop in there, I don't have anything in front of me. It's been a long time, but for me, and that is Sabro, which is a hop I discovered a couple of years ago, I think, in making this beer, I believe. And it just has this beautiful kind of like orange peel, tangerine peel character to it. Really, if you really get in there, there's a tiny bit of coconut in the background, but it's just an absolutely beautiful hop. So I believe there's some Simcoe and I can't remember off the top of my head what's in there now. It might be on the back of the can. Maybe you can tell me.
I was just going to say, I got it right here. Mosaic, Sabro, and Ontario Chinook.
And Chinook,
yes. Right. The Ontario Chinook. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was I really wanted to. We have a local hop grower that I was using at the time, and he grew some beautiful Chinook. So it was nice to be able to use that. It really kind of smells like freshly cut Christmas tree to me. So just to combine those tropical flavors with a bit of that green earthy spice type character, just anyways. So it was a huge hit the first time I brewed it, and then the can that you're holding is the one. It was the second time we did it to send it to the LCBO for a season. So it's been a big hit. So, but I have since outdone that IPA with an even bigger IPA. So, which is coming out at the end of this month. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's LCBO's near you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's coming. So
it's funny. Like when you guys generously sent these cans, I was reading off some of the names to my wife, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna try this one." She's like, "What's it called?" Tropical Thunder IPA. She's like, "Oh my god, I'm not gonna touch it." Didn't even know what the beer was. Just like Tropical Thunder. It sounds obviously a little more
a little aggressive. Yeah.
Aggressive.
Yeah.
But like that's like, yep, that's going in the cart for me. But
absolutely,
it's delicious, by the way. It's been
all right.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's I was quite pleased with it. So
yeah, it looks amazing. Okay, beverage beer number 3, beverage number 4. We have the Collingwood Downhill American Pale Ale. Can you guys tell us a little bit about this? A little bit lighter than the IPA.
Yes, you can take that away.
Yeah, sure. So Downhill is it's our flagship. So it's the first beer we released and is often either number 1 or number 2 these days behind Sunset for volume. And that's my baby. So my story is, in a nutshell, I left my work and went to Niagara College to be as a part of their brewmaster program the very first year they opened it. And the Downhill was my final project, and so my final project was to basically design and brew a beer, and I'd be marked on it, etc. So I decided I would brew the beer that would be the flagship beer for the brewery I would one day open. So that was the Downhill Pale Ale. So moderate tweaks since I brewed that original beer. 10 odd years ago, I would think about. But pretty much the same spirit. So it's, as far as American Pale Ales go, it's definitely has a little bit more of a malt backbone compared to its peers. If we're looking at something like Canuck or from Great Lakes, or like Naughty Neighbor or something like that. So just a little more malt character, maybe a little more restraint in the hops, but heavy on the Amarillo and Cascade. So you get a lot of orange and grapefruit character off of it. So definitely just I just like a little more balance. Generally, like a little more balance, malt hop balance in the beers that I make, especially if I'm making them full time. So don't like them to be too one-dimensional. So that's my baby, and that's the one that kicked it off for us and kind of paid the bills at the start for sure. So first LCBO offering as well. So yeah,
I've had a few of them for sure.
The OG ale for sure. Okay, and last but certainly not least, we have this beautiful Collingwood Freestyle double chocolate milkshake porter.
Double chocolate milkshake porter. That one that's live now in the LCBOs across the province, as our freestyle extension series. So what I mean by that is we have our freestyle series that we have at the brewery here, where you'll find the seltzers. We have a beer Getting Juicy with It, which is like a Belgian style IPA, stuff like that. Like really, stuff that we're kind of a little more exploratory with, that we only have here. And typically, as we're doing this series, we'll do brews, and we're like, wow, this would really be good in the fall at the LCBO or whatever. So we did a chocolate brown ale that was absolutely delicious, and we're like, you know what, if we can tweak this a touch, give it a different name, and it will I think it will do quite well at the LCBO as a seasonal. So it's live right now until I guess end of the month, until our winter seasonal goes in, but it's selling like crazy. Like we're super pumped about it. And whether the beer's great. So but I think that people are picking it up because they're looking at the name, like double chocolate milkshake porter, like what's going on there? I have to explore that. And then they try it and they're like, okay, yeah, this is like, it's tried and true. Like it's very chocolatey and it's beautiful. And it just, we always kind of tweak and have fun at the brewery. And we another beer we did in the freestyle series, a raspberry hibiscus saison. Our new pour is half double chocolate milkshake porter, half raspberry hibiscus saison, and it tastes exactly like a raspberry Viva Puff. Like I drink it, I'm like, I feel like it's like Saturday morning at my grandma's house and she's sneaking me a Viva Puff behind my mom's back. Like it's just delicious. And it's like, but also dangerous. Like we keep brewing these beers that are so tasty. It's just like, it makes my job a lot easier. But yeah, it's a beer that, Chris was obviously behind it because he, is climbing the ladder into the tanks behind me with 50-pound buckets of chocolate, like real chocolate, and dump it into the tank. That's the labor of love. Like for our beers like this, we're not, it's real ingredients. That's the best thing about it. And it kind of shows in the final product, what hit the shelves, that it's speaking for itself, that people are going in, grabbing it, it's running through the till, and then we're seeing the reorder, because it's cool to see people initially order and be excited about it, but then whenever they're reordering a week or two later and they're like, oh wow, yeah, like we're going through this on the shelves, it's crazy. So we're, it's been a good month and a half, I guess, that it's been as a seasonal, and far not exceeded our expectations, but like is on par with what our expectations are for a seasonal, which is good in this climate, because we're still going through, the virus that's out there, et cetera. And to see the people are still out and want to support, and it's across the province. It's not just locally, which is great. Ottawa especially is a good secondary market for us. And we're seeing great volume of the double chocolate milkshake porter in that market. And then Toronto, of course, does well for us, but it's been across the board, which is fantastic. So, it's been super cool being able to kind of have, I don't want to say like carte blanche, but like pretty much like every 3 months we can kind of do whatever we want with one SKU at the LCBO. So for this to kind of test the water of let's do something funky, like a double chocolate milkshake porter, it's not like you're not going to brew that every day, but it's like, you know what, this is something that'll be a little eye catching, and then we'll move on to the next one, and let's get this formula dialed in of what's going to attract the most eyeballs, because it's unfortunately good traditional beers with traditional names just don't have the pull they had at one point. Whereas like you go and you're like, oh yeah, this, I don't know, I can't even think something off the top of my head, but you know what I'm talking about, where it's like, okay, yeah, something very traditional and a solid beer is going to be on the back burner to, let me pull a name on the top of my head, Juicy Ass, where it's like, I'm going to grab that beer just because it's called Juicy Ass. It's a great IPA, but it's like, it tastes on par with other IPAs, but it just has a catchy name. And that's kind of where the market is, right? You have to catch it both ways. It's got to be good product and a cool name. So
it's a super saturated market. Yeah, I mean, I walk into an LCBO and I'm like, I can barely look at the shelves because I'm like, I just don't even know. Like, you really have to, like, I have to know what I'm going for, right? It's like to browse. You're like, you could spend hours just combing through any craft beer section. So yeah, it's definitely changed since 8 years ago when we started. So
kind of given up on browsing. Like, if I'm going into the LCBO, I need to know what I'm coming out with, or else
for sure
my wife won't see me for an hour and a half.
I know
exactly.
Just running out for a minute.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah,
it's overwhelming.
It is overwhelming for sure. So
yeah. No, these this wonderful selection, I think it showcases the eclectic flair of the brewery itself. You guys are making such an interesting collection here. I think Garrett and myself, as well as anyone listening, I think we'd like to know you guys a little bit more. Can we get to know you guys a bit better? Maybe Chris, can you give us maybe a few minutes about your quick summary on beer, on your connection to beer? I know you mentioned that you are an alumnus of the prestigious Niagara Brewing School, but can you tell us a little bit more about your connection with beer and why you thought, hey, I'd like to start up a brewery?
Well, it definitely goes back before the school. I can't even remember initially when I started trying new beers. I think it was back, in university. I was at Waterloo, and I started trying like Waterloo Dark when that was a thing, right? Maybe it still is, I don't know. But I was always adventurous in my beer drinking, but not really into making it. And then maybe 15 odd years ago, 13 years ago, I was always into cooking, and I was thinking maybe that was going to be the thing I wanted to do, other than my desk job. But then I met a guy who homebrewed, and I worked with a guy who homebrewed. I'm like, man, that sounds really cool. You got to teach me how to do that. So just spent a night with him making an extract brew, something, just an amber ale. And then just started on my own. The first beer I made was a Christmas ale, and I put so many different, because I threw everything in it, but the kitchen sink, so many spices. I think it ended up tasting like a Coke. There's like vanilla, cinnamon, everything. It was a pretty good beer. But anyways, so I just got in by homebrewing, and then that's kind of how I started. And I think back in those days, I was in Etobicoke, so I was going to Great Lakes, and picking up their seasonals, their orange peel ale, which is great. And their winter ale, I think the pumpkin as well. And that's when I really started to go, man, like this is just the possibilities are endless. So, and that really appealed to that kind of culinary cooking side of my interest. So I just started doing that. And then eventually to get to the brewery, I brought up a beer to my brother's place up here in Collingwood, which I'd never been to before, and this would have been in my 20s at some point. I didn't know that I had made an imperial stout, but I had made an imperial stout. So and we drank it together, and he thought it was the best beer he'd ever had. and said we should start a brewery together. And so we literally incorporated a brewery, like a company, that weekend, and like made a whole bunch of plans. But that never panned out in the end because we both had day jobs and kids and all that stuff. So, but once I heard about the college program, I had to decide if I was actually serious about getting into the industry, because there's just no way to homebrew my way into it. It's just unrealistic. I mean, at least at that time it was. Maybe you can now. The program came out. I had to, upgrade to get high school chemistry because I didn't have that. So I did night school, and then I applied to college, got in, spent 2 years there, and then spent a couple of years at Creemore Springs. Which was phenomenal. Absolutely great place to work for. I love their beers, and really kind of made me understand the industry a lot more, and kind of tempered my brewing instincts, because obviously I'm making a bunch of easy drinking lagers, more or less, right? So it kind of tempered my more tendencies to want to do something crazy or bigger, just like, oh, you know what it needs? It needs more hops. It needs more of this. So it was basically, I kind of learned more the actual craft of brewing beer there. And then eventually found my partners to open this place. So we got together, and just over 8 years ago, we got the site, built the brewery out, and here we are now. So I mean, it's been, I guess it's been a long time now, but it still feels like a little bit of a whirlwind, to be honest. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
Good, very detailed. I'm curious because I was just reading on your website, and it says that you were a part of, I guess, the first cohort there at Niagara for so like, how was it? Like, was it, I don't know, I guess, how was the experience as being like the first one to do these things? So sort of like that initial, breaking the ice type deal.
It was really exciting. We had a great class. I'm trying to think. I went through that class with some really great people who went on to do some pretty awesome things, like Mark Murphy, who opened Left Field, and Mark Horsley, who helped open Bench. And I know I'm going to be forgetting some other people as well. Jeff Broders, who's at Indie Ale House, and a whole bunch of other great people. It was really exciting. I mean, we definitely worked through, there were a lot of kinks. We didn't actually have a brewery for the first semester, but to be honest, it was actually great to see it installed. So like the construction was behind, but we got to see the whole thing installed, right? So, which is definitely beneficial. So you really kind of, it's different than showing up and having a commercial brewery there for you to work on. So, but yeah, no, it was I went back to college when I was 30-ish, or 35. So it was different. I was definitely one of the oldest guys in the class. But there were guys who were 19. There were kids who were 19. And I think there's like one or two guys older than me. So it was a wide range of people. But yeah, there's a real sense of excitement, and a real, we just really understood that the industry was about to really explode and change. With the college producing so many people who would have the skills to work and run breweries, right? So it was a lot of fun, an exciting thing to be a part of, and it's just grown like crazy. Like, I think they have 3 graduating classes a year now, I believe.
Yeah, it's insane. They're pumping them out.
Yeah,
but it shows in the industry too, like the dichotomy of crafter. I mean, whenever Chris and his initial team were just selling the downhill pale ale, like Chris was making it, they were packaging it here. Chris would go and literally sell it to LCBOs at the back door of the truck, because there was only like 100 breweries at that point. We were like, yeah, we'll take it. That would never be a thing now. Like, there's like 400 breweries. Like, it's like what are you talking about? It's true. That was something. I would literally just load the truck up once we got approved, and then just drive to the LCBOs, walk in and ask to see someone, and they'd be like, yeah, I'll take a couple cases. Fantastic. So different. The glory days.
The wild west.
It was so different. Yeah.
That's so funny to hear. That's amazing. I think that's what a legendary first class from the college.
No, I mean, there's other names there too, like I mean, I'm forgetting now. I'm showing my age. But yeah, no, there's lots of great people in that class. Aaron Spin, I think he's at Merit Brewing, if I'm not mistaken.
Amazing.
So
Nice.
yeah.
Fantastic. That's your knowledge. You have such a wealth of knowledge, Chris. That's amazing to hear. Maybe Kyle, can you chime in a little bit about your pathway and your connection with beer?
So my path, I went to school. Well, it's funny because I kind of went to Niagara Falls area. I was born in this area, small town outside of Collingwood. I mean, Collingwood's small, but I was born and raised in Stayner, Ontario, the friendly town of Stayner. And I went down to the Niagara Falls area to go play hockey, get away, etc. Did some schooling down there in Niagara Falls, and then went to Ryerson in Toronto, and or whatever they're calling it these days. It's still Ryerson, I think. But then from there, it was a business. I mean, I majored in marketing, minored in finance, and I was kind of, for me, like sales has always been a passion of mine, and business operations, all of that. Right out of school, there was always kind of something to me that clicked within the not just alcohol but beer. Like I always saw it as a growth industry, and this was when I graduated. I guess it was 2012, and things were just kind of starting to tick at that point. And I was in the last round of interviews for a position that I'm glad I didn't get in Toronto for a beer rep there, and ended up going into working for a marketing company. Going to a desk every day, talking to accounts, and run of the mill young professional stuff. And you realize pretty quickly it's not for me. And then I did, what everyone in that situation does, and gets a job at RBC and stays at that same desk. It's just crazy. And then yeah, whenever I decided that I wanted to come home, I just transferred up here with RBC, and there's a lot less opportunity here that there would be in the city, and they kind of overpromised, and I was like, well, I'm gonna just kind of keep my ear to the ground and my eyes open for other stuff. And it was, I swear to God, it was the next day that I saw, I was like, the Collingwood Brewery was looking for I think the title was Ontario North Sales Rep. It was really more Central Ontario, but like right away I applied, and I just was hammering them with emails like, I am your guy. Like, you don't even know how much I am your guy. And I mean, it's ended up getting it, and I mean, now obviously grew into to the role of sales manager here, and working directly with Chris. And the day to day here, most decisions are through him and myself, and we have a third guy here who's our retail taproom manager. That we have such a good, well-oiled thing here that is ticking along beautifully, and it couldn't have been a better fit for all of us to be here and making it work. And the beers that we're putting out, like the breadth of it, it's just something for everybody. And yeah, long story short, to answer your question of kind of like how I got here and everything, is like, I'm gonna say super random, but it was absolutely perfect. Like, it just kind of everything happens for a reason, right? So came back this way, and now family here, and super close to all my friends, etc. And what a perfect fit that I'm not gonna say I fell into it, because I had to obviously earn the position to start, but then like it just kind of proved that, yeah, no, this is the fit for me here, and I think they like me here, so it's
You're all right. You're all right.
So it's all been kind of a matter of circumstance that we got here, but this was always in my realm of wanting to be a part of this. So like I guess one of his second cousins have a cottage on it's Highway 118, which is in Muskoka. So you go left to Muskoka Brewery, you go right to the cottage. So that was kind of like my intro to craft beer. We would go left, we would grab whatever craft beer, that they were offering back then. It was like the cream ale and a few others, etc. back in the day. And it was like, this is better than going and grabbing 24 Coors Lights. I'm not gonna lie to you, like when I'm eating breakfast, I want a Coors Light, but like for the rest of the day, I want like something with a little more bread. And it was kind of where my interest got piqued on it. So that was why right out of university, I was like, yeah, no, this is an industry I want to explore. And I kind of always kept my ear to the ground on it, and there wasn't something that fit. And then when I came back, it was like I said, it's insane how that worked out, but it was such a good fit right away. And I came in, I was just like, oh yeah, he just hasn't really stopped selling. I was like, well, I don't know, like that's not what you're supposed to do. Like, make more beer.
That's
so
great.
it was just, yeah, it's been a great journey. And I mean, I lose track of how long I've been here sometimes, but I mean, I love how well me and Chris work together and just kind of bounce ideas off each other. And I mean, drive each other crazy, but also, it works well.
Yeah, you guys seem to get along, I think. I don't know. Could be acting well. That's really great. I could tell with with just you guys, I could tell the culture at Collingwood. It seems fun, and it sounds like you guys are great guys. And you guys did mention a little bit about, obviously, I think, Chris, maybe you said that the market is saturated in terms of, well, there just are a lot of craft breweries. I think well over 300 in the province, well over 1,000 nationwide. Like there's a lot of craft beer in this country. We like it a lot. Can you guys tell me a little bit? We asked this question a bit. I always like to get the nuanced answers. What makes you guys a little bit eclectic or nuanced in this enormous craft beer boom that we see ourselves in 2021?
Sure. Yeah, that's I mean, I've gotten this question quite a few times, and it's honestly, it's almost never that easy to answer, just because there are so many breweries, and it is definitely tough to carve out.
Good breweries too.
Lots of amazing breweries, and it's really tough to carve out your own identity, and plant your flag somewhere and say, this is kind of my territory, this is what we represent. So we do that from my perspective, through the way, obviously our marketing and our branding and the name that we've chosen, that we've kind of hitched our wagon to the Collingwood brand. Like Collingwood is known in the province, or not, I shouldn't say in the province, but like at least in the GTA, as a destination. So Four Seasons destination. It's beautiful. Loads of people move up here. They want to live here, or they come visit. They have wonderful, amazing memories of coming up here. So we're really trying to access or tie into that experience that people have, to really become a part of their experience up here and what they love about Collingwood. And so on the branding side, I think that, or on the identity side, I think that's kind of what we have, obviously, that you're not going to get anywhere else in the province, or even from other, local breweries. On the beer side, it's like I said, it's a saturated market. I have a particular brewing philosophy that I try to live by for the most part, which is making really well balanced, accessible beers. And that's not to say it's light or easy drinking, but whatever style I'm brewing, I generally try to make sure it's unless it's super high ABV, it's something that you can have a couple in your fridge, and you can get home and have a couple of them. It's not going to be it's not a one and done, right? That's what I hope I'm achieving, and you really see that in our core lineup from our downhill, our ESB, the Pilsner, no Lager, and the Whites Bay IPA, right? So it's so
the beer you were drinking, Garrett, was that the Tropical? Were you drinking that right now?
Yeah, just finished that.
And I mean, and that's a bigger IPA. Like, would you have another one? That's the question.
Yes.
So there we go. Balance achieved.
So no, I mean, it's we're just we're also the other thing, and this has really been a big change for us through COVID. Like I said, we've been open we'll be 8 years in May. When we first opened, we built a production facility, right? And the goal, our idea was we're going to distribute across the province to bars and restaurants, the LCBO, and our tap room and our retail store. It was just a really sleepy kind of tap room and retail store. We didn't do a lot of business out of it, and it wasn't really our focus. It's just totally been flipped on its head in the last 2 years. So it's just absolutely crazy. So it's now our largest sales channel. And that's just, I think Kyle kind of alluded to it earlier, where with the Sunset Point, we made it at the start of COVID, then people kind of got hooked on it. But we fortunately had our retail store, our online store set up at the start of COVID, and it wasn't crazy busy, but it just blew up. Once COVID hit and people were, not sheltering in place, they're staying at home, and we were doing free delivery, etc. And I just think so many people got to know us that when we opened back up, everyone just showed up, right? And they wanted to have drinks on their patio, and it's just been crazy since then. And so we've our whole model's kind of just flipped on its head. So I think getting back to that unique piece is that we can offer people an experience here that, particularly at our brewery, that you can't get anywhere else. We just built a huge beer garden. If you check out our social media, you will definitely see it. And that just launched like Canada Day this summer, and we kind of scrambled to get it together because we're waiting on licensing. There's some hiccups, etc. And so we have huge plans for that space. It's going to hold hundreds of people, and we're looking at concerts, festivals, all kind of stuff. So that's definitely something we're going to be able to offer that is utterly unique here in Collingwood, and in the province. A really amazing destination for people to come and visit. Like, it'll give you a reason to come to Collingwood, right? It's kind of piggybacking on the whole area as far as an experiential piece. There's people that they're coming to Collingwood, or call it Georgian Bay, Collingwood, Blue Mountain, because we have 4 breweries here and some cideries, etc. They're coming to this destination to see all of us as producers, and it's so cool to be a part of that collective. That because everyone makes good beer. It's like it's great to have all of those options here, but the fact that like we could go to any one of them and actually enjoy a beer there. Like, I've had some pretty crummy beers from some breweries. It just kind of is what it is, right? But like, everyone here makes great beer, and it turns into even more of a destination piece. Where, like, you know what, Side Launch has a following, and Northwind has a following, and Black Fellows does, and we do, and now it's all collectively coming together. And our piece is whenever they come on get to our property, it might have been from somewhere else, because that was the poll was there's numerous breweries here, but we keep them here because of Chris's brewing philosophies that produce beers that, you're silly to not enjoy them, but also the experience here that we provide on our property with the indoor and outdoor facilities we have. It's like, to me, that sets us apart from everyone else, because our footprint here is second to none of what we can do, especially with the beer garden. Once we get that up and fully going, it's going to be just gangbusters.
Yeah, I'm excited to check it out. I think we actually had, Andy, I don't know if this is correct. Did we have we had a trip planned prior to COVID, and then COVID sort of ramped up, and we're going to come check out Collingwood area?
Well, I'm glad it'll be after, because you'll experience more of us now, because pre-COVID didn't have the beer garden, we didn't have Sunset Point Lager. Now
yeah. The other great thing about that, just having this type, like having so many people coming to visit the brewery now, it actually allows me to make more of the freestyle series, the fun stuff, the one-offs that we only sell here, right? So it was a lot. They're much farther and few between when we were just trying to sell them into the Toronto market. So
at that point, it was like every couple months, maybe. Like, it was just kind of like, well, we're almost sold out of it, but now we're pumping them out monthly. So it helps kind of both ways, because people are coming in and like, well, what do you have new? Because they're expecting something new every month. They're supporting the ones that they like, and they're like, oh, it's so funny, because everyone's always like, oh, you should make this full time. It's like, yeah, could you imagine if we made every beer full time because like 3 people said that we should do it? Like we would need 30 fridges. Like it's not a thing. So it's like you enjoy the beers and they continue to enjoy the next one and the next one and the next one. So it's been super cool to see that following through, you know, everything that's gone on, where people are more intrigued to support their backyard, but they want to come and kind of actually take a deeper dive into what your business does, et cetera, and be a little more exploratory. Like, oh, I didn't know that I liked New England style IPAs, and now I do. I thought every IPA was like licking a pine tree. It's like, well, no, there's many different styles, and now we have people on board with that, and they're like, oh, this is Belgian style session IPA. Like, I'm on board with that, right? It's like it's so great to see, and it builds on the support that we have, and it allows Chris to do his thing, you know, on a recurring monthly basis, and to have something funky and fresh like that, and then have the online store channel where we can ship that across the province, you know, to anyone right to their door, all of our one-offs. Like it's been a cool game changer that has all come about through, it was here pre-COVID, but the new way of thinking of, I don't know, whatever, cautious thinking and wanting to do a little more online and not leave your home. We have that accessibility offering through the online store to get it to your door, and it's pretty hands off. It's allowed us to keep this train running of the freestyle series chugging along, which is great.
Yeah, I've just seen a bunch of them. They all look really, really good. And so the freestyle series, I'm like, it's kind of, the name sort of implies, I'm assuming what it is, because there's a whole wide variety of styles and
anything and everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. Freestyle it. I'm on board.
Yeah, for sure.
There's some, it's so funny because Chris will mentioned earlier about how he was, you know, at the start, his philosophy, he was against, like, he didn't want to make an IPA. And there's been, us as a team, when you look at the breadth of that, that didn't come without some, like, I'm literally like, I'll go into his office and I'll just poke and prod until I'm like, you're doing this. Like, I think it was maybe 2 years ago now where you did the first strawberry milkshake IPA. You're like, I'm not making a milkshake IPA. And then you did, and you're like, this is actually a good beer. And it won like bronze at the Canadian Brewing Awards. It's just like, wow. And it was turned out to be a seasonal for us at the LCBO. It's just like, it just shows that, you know what, you nag enough, you get what you want. That's the bottom line.
Well, we're a good balance, right? So he pushes me, and I kind of pull him back a little bit.
Could sense that a little bit.
Healthy balance.
Yeah, it works well.
Well, Chris, can I ask you? You're not. This isn't a comment on your age, but you're a seasoned veteran in the craft beer world. Again, not to do with your age, just in the fact that I think the average age of an Ontario craft brewery is, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old, something like that. Yeah. So, having a brewery that's 8 years old, that's some experienced stuff. So could you shed a little bit of light? I think Garrett and I really like to speak with individuals who have been in the game for a longer period, such as yourself. Obviously, the obvious answer to this question is capacity and size and quantity, but could you tell us like a little bit about how the craft beer world, particularly in Ontario, has really changed since, I think, 2013. Is that right? Until
2014 we opened. Yeah, but we started building the brewery out and like planting the beers and
So can you tell us a little bit like a difference in the layout of the land? And again, obviously the answer is, well, there's a lot more breweries and there's a lot more competition, and it is a more saturated market. But what else? Can you tell us a little bit more about what maybe things that you've noticed in particular that have changed a little bit, maybe for better or for worse?
Yeah, where to start? For sure, like you said, the volume of breweries. I'll definitely just stay on that point for just a second. It's the thing is, it's a kind of a weird area. Like the volume of breweries, there's bricks and mortar breweries, and as I'm sure you know, there's contract breweries, and sometimes who are contract brewers and who aren't contract brewers. Some people are transparent about it and some aren't, right? And I'm not, it's not like I'm against contract brewing, but it's sometimes, I don't realize I'm competing against a bunch of guys with marketing money who are just paying someone to make their beer, posing as brewers, and just pumping a bunch of marketing dollars into their product, right? Which it's tougher to do when you're building something bricks and mortar and you have overhead costs and that kind of stuff, right? So I think that trend, I understand the industry has gone that way. I've certainly done some contract brewing here, obviously, because it helps keep the lights on, and so I'm not against it in principle. But that's been really, I think that's been one of the reasons it's become really tough and saturated, that like what the consumer sees on the LCBO shelf. I'm not going to guess at what percentage are real breweries versus contract, but it's not insignificant. So just that's been a huge change, and I just don't think it's that transparent to the consumer, because I think when consumers are buying these products, they're really typically invested in supporting the local piece, right? I think that's generally important to the consumer, and that's not clear. There's not that distinction. So we don't typically make a thing of it at all. Like I said, we have done we do contract brewing for some people, but that's been a huge change, and I just feel like there has to be maybe some kind of accounting for that, so that there is transparency for the consumer, so they know what they're supporting, so they know where their dollars are going. So and then of course that just there may be, let's say, 200 bricks and mortar breweries and 200 virtual breweries, right? So that's been a tough market for us to navigate, on that front. So I think other things that have really changed since we opened, I mean, I think you see it in our adaptation in the freestyle series, in some of the crazier, more, as a brewer, I'll call gimmicky beers. You really have to be doing something new constantly to keep people's attention, because the craft, like the really, like the diehard craft beer consumers are pretty fickle and finicky, and they're always looking for something new, right? So and I wouldn't say that's the majority of our audience, of our customer base, but it's certainly there, and it's enough to make a difference for us. And like I said, we developed the freestyle series. When we started, I was making some really solid, well-received, simple beers like the Downhill Pale Ale or the ESB, right? Our King Post ESB, right? Which is like not, it's not a super, English beers are not popular at all, right?
They're delicious.
Yeah,
I love them.
ESBs are great.
Right. So kudos to the guys who are building their brewery on English beers. That's tough. But it's just the story on that King Post ESB. When we put it in the LCBO, it sold like gangbusters. I swear there was like the summer of the ESB or something. It was so crazy. Everybody was all about ESBs, and then it was on to the next thing. And it wasn't ESBs anymore, right? So I mean, I think that navigating those waters of trying to figure out what the trends are, and not trying to be behind or followers or whatever. It's again, that just fickle craft beer consumer who's always looking for something new, and for us trying to be able to meet those expectations, right? Like that's changed. Yeah, I mean, that's changed a lot, I think.
The expectations can be higher right now. Like
I know.
Trying to stay ahead of the curve, you can't, because you're like, sours are a thing, and then they're not a thing, and you're like, what's going on here?
It's hard.
Very, very quick.
I mean, when we, just to give you, this is the way I perceive it. When I told you the story about me brewing the Downhill Pale Ale, American Pale Ale, as their flagship. When I was doing that, I don't think there were any breweries that had an APA as their flagship. Like, I think Canuck was still like like for going back to Great Lakes because I knew them well enough as a consumer. They were still making their horseshoe lager, their red leaf, I think they made, and something else too. I think a black lager, I can't remember. And the Canuck was like it wasn't even like a flagship until I think they rebranded everything like that, right? So when I was like, yeah, American Pale Ale, there's hardly any of them. This is going to be great, right? But even by the time I launched the brewery, like 3 or 4 years after I graduated, it was like there was 1,000 American Pale Ales, right? So I was already behind the curve. But it's a good solid flagship even these days. So that's really just the finicky nature and the expectation of the consumer to be, to always be expecting something different and new. That's been the toughest thing, and that's even moved into the LCBO, where our sales team would go in and they'd be like, "What do you have that's new?" I mean, what do you have that's new? It takes 9 months to get a product into the LCBO. It's not like you can brew it now and just bring it into you, right?
People don't know that. They're just like,
here's a growler.
It's like, this is not how it works. So it's just, it's like meeting those expectations. I mean, it's a challenge. It's a fun challenge because I get to make, I got to come up with all sorts of crazy stuff, and that in the end, I have to, I always try to make. Even if I don't want to make the beer or that style of beer, I don't like it, I always try to brew it to a degree that I will enjoy it. And that's my goal. It's like, if I can sit down and drink it, then I'll be happy with it, right? Even though I'm not particularly fond of the style. So I think the explosion of virtual breweries has been, it's been tough. I think tough to navigate, and just keeping up with consumer expectations. We don't have a huge marketing department to go out and do surveys and figure out where the industry's going and what trends are happening. I mostly rely on. I got my head in the back making the beer, and Kyle's out there seeing what's happening. So he usually brings the ideas to me. You have to try this, you have to try that, and so we'll have something new. I mean, that's really that flip from I always thought I'm just going to make 4 or 5 solid core beers of classic styles that will kind of lay the foundation for the brewery, and more or less that's how it is. But what gets people talking about us is the double chocolate milk porter, the getting juicy with it, the tropical thunder. That's what creates the buzz, right? So and trying to stay a little bit above the din out there, right? So
absolutely.
I don't know if I answered your question in a roundabout way, but
no,
we got there.
Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely we've spoken with folks. I mean, spoken with brewery owners who have kind of used the contract brewing as sort of like dip your feet in a little bit and then move forward to actually opening a brick and mortar. But then you're right, there's a lot of kind of maybe virtual breweries or contract breweries that are in perpetuity that just have a big marketing budget that you suggest.
For sure. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to compete against those guys, right? Because you're just throwing marketing dollars at it, right? So when I do brew for people, it might be either established smaller breweries who I'm just handling their overflow, because they don't have enough capacity in house, or I'm confident they're moving on to actually open breweries, which that's always been the case. So that's kind of
gotcha.
That's kind of the criteria I set for myself. I don't want to be too much of a hypocrite. I mean, again, I got to keep the lights on. So someone comes to me with like, I need you to make, like 10,000 hectoliters of this beer every year. I'm like, but I'm not opening a brewery. I don't know. We'll see.
It's tough. Those are the business decisions. Yeah.
But you have a check. Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's a contract, right? Yeah. Well, guys, we're coming up on our hour mark. This has flown by, of course. Maybe I'll end with a final question. Maybe both of you or one of you, whichever you prefer. We always like to kind of look to the future a little bit. Do you guys, maybe we can preface on how far into the future you guys look for the Collingwood Brewery. Do you guys sort of, maybe I'll throw out this question and you can answer it, or sort of say that, well, this isn't really how we run our enterprise, but where do you see the Collingwood Brewery in 5 years from now, 2026?
Yeah, I mean, long story short, everywhere. Like it's a growth plan for us, and it's a plan built on solidifying our image, our brand, what we are. So all of the cans you see, the hat you're wearing, etc. It's all a aggressively long process of it started out as a brand refresh. It turned into a rebrand through COVID, and it took way longer than it needed to. But there's so many kinks and so many supply chains for everything that we've. I'm looking at our merch now. Everything is the new logo. Our tap handles are the new logo. Like everything's almost there now. We have we have 2 core brands that are still in 12 packs with the old script logo that are yet to change over. They're getting there slowly but surely. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, the biggest thing is just once we solidify our image and our brand, like it's kind of like if you follow us on Instagram or Facebook, etc., we've really started to hone in on the get out, explore, the Collingwood lifestyle. The Collingwood lifestyle is 4 seasons, as Chris mentioned earlier. So you'll look at brands such as your like North Faces, your Patagonias, and it's very outdoorsy, very exploratory, and that is what our brand has always been. But we haven't relayed it in the best light, I guess, how I'll say it. So now we have honed in on that, and we know what we want to put out moving forward, and really stick to that story and grow it. And it's been I want to say it's been about half a year now that we've actually kind of started this journey, and watch our followership grow to what it has. It's been insane. Like a few thousand followers in a short time growth, and then the volume at the brewery, etc. Just people buying into who we are and what we are. Because yeah, we've always been the Collingwood Brewery, but now we're the Collingwood Brewery that we love and cherish. Adventure, action, outdoors, excitement, all of that stuff. Everything that Collingwood offers, whether it's hiking, skiing, snowboarding, water sports, etc. I mean, golfing too. Anything that kind of gets you out and about and exploring all that's beautiful and around you. That's kind of what Collingwood is. And then you get a delicious, well-balanced beer made by the top of the first class at Niagara College, Chris Freeman. It's all coming together to help us grow and move forward to the year over year. Our biggest thing is growth. And it's I don't want to be tied to the LCBO, but I think that's our biggest growth channel, where across the province we can see more and more consistent growth within there with our seasonals that lead to core brand recognition, all of that. Then it's going to help with our growth, and it's going to help us to expand and move on to the next thing and just keep offering people more and more. And that's what we want to do. We just want to the short and easy answer is to be more recognizable. You look at, we could sit here and I bet you if we were like, name 5 of the top, what you think the top 5 Ontario craft breweries are, I bet you we would name the same top 5, and we want to be in that conversation. But for us, it was finding our identity and now growing towards that, and we're on the right path, and we have the right person to be making those beers, because everyone makes good beers, but I will be the first to say that I didn't start here whenever 8 years ago, or almost 8 years ago, whenever it was made. I guess I've been here for, it's been almost, 5.5 or 6. I can't, at this point, I don't know. It's all just, I'm having fun, but it's, I was a fan before I was an employee. So it's a super easy sell of what Chris does, because he doesn't miss. Like, all of his beers are great. It's just like some are a little too traditional and they don't have the moxie in this market. So I'm like, Chris, don't do that again. We need to give it a funky name or something.
But well, it's been yeah, I mean, to Kyle's point, yeah, I mean, for a lot of breweries and small businesses, marketing and branding is always tough. And you know, we stumbled a bit out of the gate, but we're finally getting our ducks in a row, and you know, that's definitely going to be part of you know, getting that message right, and you know, that the communication to the consumer right, you know. But you know, I think speaking specifically about, you know, where we're going to be here in Collingwood, what it's going to be like in the next 5 years, like you know, in 5 years I want to have like a big name perform here at the brewery, right? We have this concert/event space, so my goal is just to blow it up here, you know. And I'm like
Elton John.
Yeah. What's that?
Is it Elton John?
Yes.
Sir Elton John, maybe.
His farewell tour.
Yeah, farewell to farewell.
No, but yeah, no, we've got is really just to make, you know what, I would just to make this a real destination. I've traveled through the US, and I see people lining up out the door for beers when they come out. You know what? One day I want to have people lined up out the door for beers. I guess that's really on me to make a beer that's worthy of that kind of thing, and maybe one day I will. But really, just to make this, you know, the Collingwood Brewery just like it's a place people go to. Like it's a destination for people across Southern Ontario, and something that people talk about. So that's just that door is kicked open to us these last 2 years. The possibilities now we see. So I think we're really, you know, we're just at the start of that journey now. But I think that's definitely a big piece of our future for sure.
Well, I think in this eight years, you guys have done a lot, and I think you really have branded yourself and attached yourself to Collingwood in a big way. So yeah, well, Chris Freeman, Kyle Weston, the Collingwood Brewery, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys will join us again for maybe an episode next year. If you guys will,
sure,
yeah, of course, anytime, yeah, this is a pleasure.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. All right,
always a
gentlemen,
pleasure.
make sure if you haven't been to the Collingwood Brewery, check it out. Wonderful little trip if you're in the city. Thanks so much, gentlemen, and we'll talk to you soon.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Take care.
Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all our interviews and beer-related content. Remember, craft beer is here.